Decree of the Holy Apostolic See, Invalid Sacrament of Penance of the Heretics and Apostate Sectarians. This apostolic canonical and theological doctrine condemns the pretended and thus absolutely invalid and null attempts of the ipso facto excommunicated SSPX, SSPX-MC, SSPV, and sedevacantist heretics, them declared excommunicated by the decree of the Holy Apostolic See of Rome, in exile, on May 15, 2021 Anno Domini, signed by His Holiness Pope Jacobus I. In this present publication the Holy Apostolic See teaches the canonical and theological doctrine regarding the validity of the sacrament of penance and condemns thus the invalid attempts of the above-mentioned excommunicated heretics and their collaborators in other such like heretical assemblies, and they are declared null, void, and utterly invalid. Therefore those who would attempt or continue to obtain such an invalid "absolution" from these enemies of the Catholic Church and from other such like heretical collaborators of the devil, they have to understand that they are still in their sins, and, if they die in such a deplorable and reprobated state of their soul, they will without any exception burn in hell forever as heretics and apostate sectarians, if they belong and or actively frequent the apostate pro-communist sect, called Novice Ordo.
Okay, today we are recording video about the Sacrament of Penance and on part of the heretics. And so it's self-evident that heretics cannot absolve those who come to them from sins. And the reason is because the Sacrament of Penance is depending on the grace of God. And heretics are enemies of God, and they don't serve God, they serve the devil. Therefore, their criteria for absolving and properly judging, because to sit in the Sacrament of Penance in a confessional as a priest with valid faculty and being truly priest or bishop, in our case, requires the proper understanding of what is sin and what is not sin. And when those who are heretics lack that understanding or have forfeited that understanding, obviously, because otherwise it comes from God, and God is not supplying to them because they are His enemies, then they cannot properly judge. And God will not grant them the grace to judge the sins of the penitents, and not only that, but God will not grant them the grace of that sacrament, so that those penitents who go to such people are punished by it, and there's no absolution. We have posted this many times before. This is from St. Thomas Aquinas. It's from Summa Theologiae Supplementum, question 38, Article 2, whether heretics and those who are cut off from the Church can confer orders. But there's objection to, and he replies, we'll read it, the effect of absolution is nothing else but the forgiveness of sins, which results from grace, and consequently a heretic cannot absolve, as neither can he confer grace in the sacraments. Moreover, in order to give absolution, it is necessary to have jurisdiction, which one who is cut off from the Church has not. So what does it mean? Those who are excommunicated, they're no longer Catholic. Not only that, but because of the constraints of the canon law, they are also excommunicated from the Church, and that's specially reserved the Holy See. As you can see, this is Canon 2314 of the 1917 Code of Canon Law, valid Code of Canon Law of the Roman Catholic Church. And because there's no such thing as the 1983, whatever the Novus Ordo sect implemented, that's invalid and cannot be used. And some heretics use it now and then as they please and so forth, but that's inadmissible, so we're not concerned with that. But this is English translation, so it's Canon 2314. Excommunications and all this ipso facto are reserved to the Holy See, speciale modo befall all apostates from the Christian faith, that means from Catholic tradition, and all heretics and schismatics, and so forth. There's no need to go any further on this. So then, obviously, what does it mean? It means that they do not have membership in a church, and therefore they cannot exercise anything, no jurisdiction possible over the souls, over the consciences of the souls. This is Canon 188, 1917 Code of Canon Law. The inner square is rectangle is from the actual the book in Latin. We have posted this many times before, but we just put it in here because such people do not have their clerical offices to exercise them, and moreover because of their defect of intention during their so-called ordinations. And in 1988, we just posted an entire video on the subject of the 1988 SSPX so-called Episcopal consecration in Caen, Switzerland, and we have condemned the whole thing as invalid. So they don't even have valid episcopate as it is to use it to ordain priests. So they don't have valid priests. None of these people, including the sedevacantist, because that's the consequence of what the excommunicated heretic Archbishop Pierre Martin Nongin has done, and all this, and to confirm this is what he did in Palma de Troyes, in that heretical sect, that he should have known that when he attempts to ordain to priesthood outside the church, somebody who is visibly outside the church is not had no desire to be reconciled with the church, and back then that was obvious that the Novus Ordo sect should have been obvious to a true bishop of the church that the Novus Ordo sect is not Catholic, so then the church has to continue as it is, and bishop is bound to practice the faith and follow the constraints of the canon law. And Archbishop of Gaul had no desire to do that, and he should have known that if he attempts to ordain to priesthood somebody who is not even part of, has never been part of the church as a cleric, or does not have the true mass, does not have the intention to say the true mass, so some kind of perversion. It's a non-Catholic sect that such attempted consecration or ordination to priesthood, consecration to episcopate and ordination of priesthood will be invalid. It is invalid because it's defect of intention. You cannot ordain somebody to say something that's not Catholic as a mass. So that's impossible. So this is 1917 Code of Canon Law, Canon 188. The office of a cleric becomes vacant by way of tacit resignation, that means automatically, by the force of law, ipso iure, it says, and by the fact the act is committed ipso facto, without any declaration, it says, if a cleric, well, number 4 says, has publicly defected from the Catholic faith. The cleric is no longer able to exercise that office, period. So there's no such thing as for them to do that. Not only that, but it is impossible for somebody who's in good standing of the church. We show it right here, Canon 731 in the yellow. It says, it is forbidden to minister the sacraments of the church to heretics and schismatics, even though they are in good faith, and ask for them, unless they have first renounced their errors and been reconciled to the church. And then Canon 733, down below the last highlighted, it says, in the administration and reception of the sacraments, the liturgical rites and ceremonies prescribed in the approved ritualistic books of the church must be accurately observed. But these people have no intention to do any of this. Obviously, so that's serious defect of intention, which invalidates the sacrament as it is. So let us go a little further. This is about the sacrament of penance. And this is Canon 873, absolution. It's in Latin, and so we will go a little further. This is the translation that's from canonist Dom Charles Augustine Bakovan from 1918, the commentary on the canon law. We use it for the purpose that is translated into English. Ordinary jurisdiction for hearing confessions ceases with the office to which it is attached, is lost. That means the jurisdiction is lost, as laid down in Canon 183. That's in general terms as far as it addresses the tacit resignation, but it is specified more in Canon 188 in regards to heretics. And after a declaratory or condemnatory sentence of excommunication, suspension from office, or interdict. Ordinary, the interdict means prevention from exercising their office, where the person has to be named, and also in suspension, excommunication. But this is regards to judicial proceeding of the church. Ordinary jurisdiction also ceases at the moment once resignation is accepted, when privation, and that's the most important thing, when privation or removal is duly intimated. That means that shows the canon 188.4. That means that heretic is automatically deprived of that jurisdiction, cannot exercise it. That's what St. Thomas Aquinas says, and so this is just the only continuation of what the Church always held as, and does hold as binding, because we cannot allow, and we do not allow heretics to exercise that authority to hear confessions and so forth. It's impossible. There is exception in the canon law in regards to immediate matters of death when a person is dying, but today the situation is so different that this shouldn't be exercised at all, because these people are not priests, so there's no absolution regardless, unless God grants the person doesn't know any better, and God grants the perfect contrition. But if it's a soul of a heretic, a person who does not renounce the heresy, and that's impossible, obviously, the one who's dying. These are sort of extraordinary situations. We don't need to address that. Perhaps maybe at the end people address this a little bit, but at this point we just continue with this. When the term of office expires, or after one has been declared to have incurred or has been condemned to excommunication or personal interdict or suspension from office. To comment on this, there is no such thing as possibility of reconciliation in the sense of what needs to be accepted, what can be accepted if the person is still a heretic. And so heretics, they have to first be reconciled with the church. We speak about those who want to be, those members of the laity, obviously. So there's no such possibility for them to be absolved if they still espouse the heresy. So speak only about those who want to save their soul and want to be in good standing with the church. So this is what we're gonna play is from the Society St. Pius X website. They have website they call it SSPX Asia, and on that the proof is that they don't even use the proper form that's prescribed by the Rituale Romanum. How the procedure, how the rule of confession is done. That invalidates the confession as defect of form, and of course they are not priests, so they cannot absolve regardless. And bishops, obviously. So there's no such thing as for them to even obtain it, even if they did it correctly. But this is the proof, evident proof. And we have also on the end of this short video, we will comment on it while it plays. We have another excerpt from 1964, copy of an English translation of the Rituale Romanum regards to Sacrament of Penance. It was available on the internet, and the translation is, and that regards to what is prescribed, what is necessary for the penitent to recite, that it is necessary for the penitent to recite Confiteor. We also have, I will show it right here, because this is important to show before we go any further. So this is from the Ritual Romanum, and in regards to Sacrament of Penance, and this is the short, this is the point 15, and the English translation shows it in the 1962 print, but this is all the Ritual Romanum. I have forgotten the year. It's early 1900s that we have. We have to look it up what we have here, but that's a copy. So, but it says that the penitent should recite Confiteor, or it says vel saltem utatur his verbis, then or else he utters these words: I confess to God Almighty and you, Father. If he doesn't know the Confiteor, but normally it's recited the Confiteor, it's visible there. So there's nothing about act of contrition in there. That was changed by these enemies, and obviously it's self-evident that they don't have intention to do the right thing. So this is from that. Actually, we'll show it here. This is a screenshot. It's so the translation. The penitent says the Confiteor either in Latin or in the vernacular, or at least the following words: I confess to Almighty God and to you, Father. Next, he confesses his sins in detail, being aided whatever necessary by the priest, and so forth. So this is just to show that that's what it means. So it speaks about the Confiteor, not act of contrition. Okay, this is the Confiteor right here, copy of the screenshot, and this is the form of absolution in Latin. That's what we use, and it's self-evident. So that's from the same Pontifical Romanum. It's just a screenshot that we fit. It's on 2 pages, 2 separate pages. But we have it like this, so it's visible for the use of our purpose here. So let us go to that video, because that's essential to understand what SSPX is using as their version of the Sacrament of Penance is invalid in the sense what they use for form. Also, it has been valid that they are heretics and they are not priests. But this is even more striking because they actually publish it on the internet. So this is what that is, and that's the website, and we are playing it as it is, so we will comment on it. So then it's the how to administer. Let's see, hold on a second. Just go back a little bit because it's kind of hard to show. So we clicked on the form, and then it says act of contrition right there, and that's what the penitent is supposed to recite, but that's invalid. So now we're highlighting it, and it's self-evident that there's no such thing, that act of contrition. That's a fraudulent form that invalidates the whole purpose. So if that person doesn't know any better, God can still grant the perfect contrition if he so desires to grant that person the mercy of being absolved. But Confiteor, no, that's not. But the SSPX, we have certain knowledge that they're using it. In regards to the other heretics, obviously they like the society, so-called Society of St. Pius V, or the sedevacantist heretics. We have no knowledge what they use. This is the actual 1964 English translation of the Pontifical Romanum, Ritual Romanum, and then we're scrolling down. This is also from the internet. We're scrolling down the form, and then this is the common form of translation, translated into English, the absolution, and that's our endeavor on the internet, as it is, to show it what it is, that the absolution is, the priest has to say, therefore I absolve you of your sins and so forth. It can be said, of course, it should be said in Latin. Now the point 15 right here, which you already read, about the confiteor, that's the proof. This video is the proof of just highlighting that point. That actually is prescribed in 1964. It was already Montini. They haven't changed it yet, so this had to come up after that. So the SSPX is using actually what Novus Ordo sect instituted, and that's invalid. That's a perversion as it is of the whole sacrament as it is. That's invalid. So those people are not absolved even based on this form as it is. So there's no possibility of them. They are still in their sins. So what does it mean in this publication? Well, these are heretics. These are people who truly don't have any intention to serve God. They truly are this evil. They serve the devil. They're actually enemies of God, enemies of the church, and they are luring people into their assemblies and administer fraudulent sacraments. They claim that the sect somehow is entitled to these changes or something, which is not possible. That's a Novus Ordo sect. They don't have any authority in the church. They don't have any jurisdiction. They cannot change this, and plus this is completely invalid because Council of Trent forbids that to be done. And under the pain of anathema, we will show it right here. That's from session 7 on Sacraments General, Council of Trent, Canon 13. If anyone saith that the received and approved rites of the Catholic Church want to be used in the solemn administration of the sacraments may be condemned or without sin be omitted at pleasure by the ministers, or be changed by every pastor of the churches into other new ones, let him be anathema. That means cursed, excommunicated. So there's no such possibility of these things to be changed. So, but that's precisely what the sect did. And that's what the SSPX have. They used this. This is invalid. There's no such thing as act of contrition to be used in Sacrament of Penance. To be recited, that's defect of intention and defect of form. That's not the form. The absolution is the form, but what the penitent is supposed to recite nullifies the sacrament, because the priest who hears, the so-called priest who hears it, setting aside the fact that they are not priests and they are not bishops. But that's also another part, as it is, but for this purpose of explaining it. He cannot allow something that is not part of the rule, that's not part of what's supposed to be recited by the penitent, to exist. So we have read the canon law, which says, the liturgical books and shall be used for that purpose. What is prescribed by the church to be used. So it says confiteor, and so they cannot be using act of contrition. So now, if you go to these places, as the so-called Society of St. Pius V, or the sedevacantist, if they, for any reason, if you hear that you're supposed to recite these fraudulent prayers, these prayers that were instituted afterwards, no matter how much they publish them, that they are approved by the church or something, they are not for that purpose. So if they use them, that's indicating that they don't, there's a defect of intention. On that, the rest, that there's no absolution. Plus also that they are not truly priests. And all these people emanated one way or another from the Society of St. Pius X. That means Archbishop Lefebvre. That means his 1962 Missal used, and so forth. So there's no possibility of them to reconcile themselves to the truth. It's invalid. And then those people remain in sin.
J'ai résumé au cardinal Ratzinger en quelques mots. Vous voyez, même si vous nous accordez un évêque même si vous nous accordez une certaine autonomie par rapport aux évêques, même si vous nous accordez toute la liturgie de 1962, si vous nous accordez de continuer les séminaires et la fraternité comme nous le faisons maintenant, nous ne pourrons pas collaborer.
So this is self-evident of what Archbishop Lefebvre says, because obviously he doesn't wish to obey the church as it is. You cannot grant non-Catholic sect. That's what he says. We will not collaborate, but then he says, even if you grant us.
Même si vous nous accordez toute la liturgie de 1962,
So this is self-evident what Archbishop Lefebvre says. Even if you concede us the whole liturgy of 1962, that is self-evident truth. There's no reconciliation of this. So since he was using the 1962 liturgy, obviously, and we don't know how old this recording is, but it's self-evident that they don't have. This is probably before the so-called consecration 1988, but it might be sooner, we don't know. But that's not, the point is that he was asking non-Catholic sect to approve something that he should have rejected to begin with, and know that he has to reject it, that's his obligation in front of God, because they don't have authority to do that. We have shown what the Council of Trent says. So there's no, it is impossible to reconcile this with the reality of the constraints of the church. That's what it says right there. Or be changed if anyone said that the received and approved rights of the Catholic Church that are used in the administration of the sacraments may be changed. We've skipped a little bit. May be changed by every pastor of the churches into other new ones. Let him be anathema. That's let him be anathema means excommunicated, cursed, and excommunicated. It's a horrible sentence. It's just there's no reconciliation of this. The person becomes a heretic. That's what happened to Roncalli. Roncalli, in that missal, he introduced. Plus, he already lost the papacy because of what he did to the Sacrament of Holy Orders, the Episcopal consecration. So he had no authority to change the missal regardless. But what he put in there, he put St. Joseph in the canon of the Mass, which the church had never done. So that's against what the usage of the church is. That means he introduced new missal that contradicts what was in use before. That's a substantial change. Even though these heretics will try to justify it somehow, we still declare by our apostolic authority that is a substantial change, and it invalidates that missal. So Archbishop Lefebvre had no authority to, or if he was in good standing with the church, he would have never asked non-Catholic sect for permission to consecrate bishops, and to use, he would know that he cannot use what the sect has instituted for missal, that he has to reject it. He has to go back to what the church was ever, or never leave, never leave what the church was always using. That's the point. But he was negotiating with them as if which means he disregarded the constraints of the canon law and the Council of Trent, right here. That's a clear-cut constraint that cannot be altered or set aside. So then there's no reconciliation of the other steps that he took. That's why the Society of St. Pius X today do not have valid priests and do not have valid bishops. So they cannot do anything, any of this, in regards to these changes. So we have found out just recently, we'll put it in here, because that's such a striking example of what the SSPX heretics are capable of. and we had set it aside right here, but it is incredible that they actually think that this is something that they are entitled to do, and they use Novus Ordo sectarian, who is not a bishop, to so-called consecrate the holy oils, but then they don't have authority to this. What we're showing is we took it from some other places, but his name was Vitus Huander, and he was with the Novus Ordo sect. And so obviously there's no possibility to allow such a person to consecrate holy oils on Holy Thursday, Sana Domini, Mass, when the bishop is supposed to consecrate the holy oils, plus they're using the 1962, the SSPX heretics, 1962 Pontificale Romano, which was introduced. We don't know what the changes are in there, obviously, so, and they are changes. So obviously that's him, that's from another that's him on the left, and that they deleted this photo. So that's he's not a bishop. But what is striking in that one of these postings is what it says in the that they actually, this is sedevacantist website, that they're actually considering that the SSPX has the ability to consecrate these oils, holy oils. And that is impossible. They do not have that. They do not have it. It is in the updates and so forth, in the commentary. They cannot, because they are not bishops. You have demonstrated that in the previous what took place, that Archbishop Lefebvre used the 1962 invalid heretical form of Roncalli in Econ, Switzerland, 1988. And so they don't like the people to understand this correctly, because that negates the whole scheme, whole fraudulent setup as it is. But yes, we have dealt with it in our previous recording. So there's no possibility of reconciliation of this. Impossible. So what does it mean for us? So this is from Gorbachev, and you can read it from 1987, the arch-criminal Gorbachev. And it is self-evident that these people have no intention to warn their faithful about these attacks against the church and so forth. This is a mix of pictures that we have put together and a little bit of video. That's Karol Wojtyla, who's never valid Pope, and he is there with this enemy of the church, the communist criminal Gorbachev, in the Vatican. That's Wojtyla, again, who was never valid Pope, with communist criminal and terrorist Fidel Castro in the Vatican. This is his so-called successor, Father Joseph Ratzinger, was never valid Pope, in Havana, in Cuba, in 2012, with, again, Fidel Castro. This is Schmidberger, Franz Schmidberger, who was so-called Superior General of Society St. Pius X, with the same Ratzinger, who has connection with communist criminals. This is Bernard Pillay, who says the following in there, and that's from a video from French television, or Swiss television. It's in French. I think it was French television. He gives them full recognition of authority, which is impossible. The Novus Ordo Protestant pro-communist sect. He says we express that they show to Rome their submission, they recognize their authority, which is heresy. Non-Catholic sect that that has not received, that doesn't even have valid mass and doesn't have valid ordinations, these are laymen. Not just by saying the name of Bergoglio, who is not the Pope, and the local impostor to the Episcopal at the canon of the Mass. Plus they're using the 1962 liturgy, so God is not mocked. They mocking themselves, they will pay for it. But that's what Bernard Pillay has said. It is self-evident that these people have no intention of teaching the truth. It is astonishing. So, and then of course they following what the Novus Ordo sect issues. This is from Gruner, the arch-heretic from Novus Ordo, and then on the right-hand side there's Bernard Pillay listed as one of the main speakers in Moscow at their gathering of 2017 before Gruner died. This is Bergoglio with Archprimal KGB criminal Putin in Vatican, who was there 6 times, and so forth. This is this new superior general of this illegitimate fraudulent order Society St. Pius X, Pagliarini from Argentina, I think. And this is Bergoglio signing a concordat with KGB agent Kirill, who is not the patriarch of the Russian Orthodox Praxis. They are schismatics. This is in Cuba also. This is video of this impostor Bergoglio, who is a layman. He's not so much as a priest, but Putin again, they're giving each other gifts. So it is incredible that these people have connections, and obviously they smile at each other and so forth. So it is incredible that they think that they can just get away with it. This is the conclusion of this recording. Therefore, adhering to our duty towards God by our apostolic authority in regards to this, what is the subject matter of this publication, this decree of the Holy Apostolic See, our decree as the rightful and true sovereign pontiff, we condemn these rites of what they use, or this fraudulent administration of the Sacrament of Penance on part of these heretics. And if they are, as we said in the recording, that we have no certain knowledge in regards to these other fraudulent orders, like these so-called orders like this so-called Society St. Pius V, or the sedevacantist heretics, what they use for form, and if they have those who go there recite the Confiteor, they still don't have the faculty as heretics from us, so they cannot absolve. And so there's no possibility of them to do anything in this regard, because heretics cannot absolve and cannot confer grace in the sacraments, because they don't have the jurisdiction, because they don't belong with the church. They don't have the jurisdiction, have to have the permission from the church, and have to be in good standing. They have to they have to have the faculty, they do not possess it. We would have to grant it to them, and they do not belong with us, with the church, with the true Roman Catholic Church, the Roman Catholic Church, divine institution. So, by our apostolic authority, we fully condemn and declare invalid these ceremonies that they dare to say dare to call Sacrament of Penance of these heretics. And if those who go there see those defects in them, and also the defects in their desecrated places, then they have to know that if they continue going there, they will pay to God for it, because that's a horrible sin, sacrilege, to be with heretics and to be involved with them, obviously. And we constrain them by this constraint that is Canon 731. We'll read it again. It is forbidden to minister the sacraments of the Church to heretics and schismatics, even though they are in good faith, and ask for them, unless they have first renounced their errors and been reconciled to the Church. They have to be accepted into the church, and the whole procedure has to be gone through. That means abjuration of heresy, conditional baptism. We have ordered that and decreed that it needs to be done for all that come, because of the, unless they, I guess it would be certain that they actually were baptized properly, even then the conditional baptism would be administered for the sake of the safety of their soul and security of the sacrament. So we cannot take it at face value. Even these heretics, what they have done, unless it cannot be proven. It's so difficult to prove something like this. We'll have to address it in another recording. So for the safety of their soul, they would have to be conditionally baptized, and they have to, which is short ceremony as it is, they have to be tested what they know in regards to catechism of the Council of Trent, and they have to, obviously after the heresy already said, and go to confession, valid confession, our absolution as the rightful episcopal power in regards to these sacraments and so forth. And if they decide not to, then they are still in their sins. And we have just declared it invalid, and it is invalid, what these heretics are administering. And we have demonstrated in those proofs that's from their website, from SSPX Asia, that what they're reciting the act of contrition, which is not part of the rite. So that should suffice today. It is the dogma divinely revealed outside the true Catholic Church without a practice of the Catholic faith, which is nothing else but Catholic tradition. There's absolutely no salvation. All heretics, infidels, or apostates, or schismatics, all enemies of the Church, like the communists, socialists, and so forth, atheists, which is the heresy of heresies, all such people burn in hell and will burn in hell if they die in such a state of their soul. And God will punish this world very soon, so do not delay and ask our Lord in prayer for your conversion. In that case, if He sees that you are sincere, He will help. But if He sees that you are not willing to be sincere, or that you will not persevere in what He will grant, then He will not grant it. He says so. I will have mercy on whom I will have mercy, St. Paul quotes him, and I will show mercy to whom I will show mercy. God is most merciful, but only to those who are willing to accept it and to build upon it, to bring the good fruits as good trees they will become if He helps them. If He decides to not to help them, that's His discretion, because there's defects on their part, and obviously insincerity, and therefore denial of the truth as it is on their part. And such people cannot expect that God will help them, because they are His enemies. And that should suffice today. Reconsider very quickly, because there's no salvation outside this church, this Roman Catholic Church. And you cannot be saved to those heretics. Period.